absolutely wild as Vern Gagne's All-Star Wrestling goes coast to coast and continent to continent. The greatest wrestlers in the world.
He may be an apprentice carpenter, but I guarantee you he is a seasoned ring veteran.
I've been hit with bar stools, bar rags, barmaids.
I'm talking to you.
They're scared that Hulkamania's still running wild. Oh, yeah. I got a big fat wife and 9 kids at home, and I gotta feed them.
And take a look at Jesse the Body in real life.
Open your hand once, if you would.
You want the stick?
This is absolutely unbelievable. Totally, completely out of control.
He's coming in over the top. Hey! Look out!
Well, I don't have 9 kids and a fat wife, but I do have 2 fellow gentlemen, and we need to feed them. So become a pinfall member. There. That's my pitch.
That was a good one. I like that.
The
Straight
most
to the point.
entertaining plug we've ever had.
That was very, very well done.
I mean, like, as I say,
Feed
cut
me
the
more.
crap. Cut the crap. Yes. What's going on, guys? Happy Monday here. We're recording
Mondays.
and
Yeah, early Mondays are always my favorite.
okay, Garfield.
It's a good way to start the week. And
It is.
8:44 is not, well, I guess it's early for some. You know, when you're retired, living off of the millions that you've made in the business.
I had to pay that all back to Vern.
With interest.
Millions are what is the conversion rate for never mind.
Yeah. God.
We don't have a conversion rate.
So this is going to be a good show. We got some good questions this week, guys.
We do. This has been one that we haven't done a Q&A in a while. So I figured this would be a good time to bring it back because we know I've got a few questions that people have sent me a while back, and they've just kind of been sitting there in the dock. And I know, Mick, you always get questions, and Joe get questions. So we are going to have a no DQ&A where we've got a handful of your inquisitive minds are going to ask Mick and Joe and myself a few questions, and we are going to do our best to answer those. Do you want to tell you guys that if you are new here, welcome into AWA Unleashed. Checking us out on YouTube, thank you so much. This is a great platform for the No DQ&A because we've got a lot of pictures, and a lot of our shows have pictures and kind of visual aids to go along with it. Also, Spotify, iHeart, Google, Podbean. We're on pretty much every podcasting platform. So if you're wondering where to find us, you can just search us up pretty much anywhere, and you can find us via any of your favorite platforms. So there we go. Anything before we need to get into the no DQ&A today, guys?
We got some good ones. I looked over the list, and it's going to be fun. Let's do it.
I think it's time to ring the bell and get right into it. Elapsed time, 15 minutes.
Yeah, I did good today. I did
Oh,
good.
no, that wasn't at you. It's just that the bell rang, and I'm sure, 30 seconds ago, and Al DeRusha would have said 15 minutes elapsed time.
Yep.
Al?
God bless you.
Okay. Are we getting into it?
We are.
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's start right off the top with question 1. It's from Ryan Ellett. And this one's for you, Chris. Hey, Chris, I've got a question for the next DQ&A. I've been watching some early 80s Mid-South wrestling on Peacock. Talk about some fantastic wrestling. Like the AWA, Mid-South had some incredible talent pass through, and they played a clip on a 1984 program that featured Backlund versus Dusty Rhodes for the AWA title in a bull rope match. I think Bill Watts on commentary said it was a match put on by Paul Bosch, which would put it in Houston, Texas. I don't know exactly the connection between AWA and Mid-South at this time, but Did Dusty ever have a notable run in the AWA? Love the show. Keep up the hard work.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan. Well, there he is, the American Dream right there. I would say he had a notable run, but I mean, obviously never held the championship. But I think you could say that Dusty had, I mean, we're still talking about him. So to me, it's a memorable run and maybe not as successful as other territories, but I would call it a success up here. I mean, what do you guys say?
Yeah, Dusty's, and it was a successful run. Couple 3 years. This would have been in the early to mid 1970s when Dusty came into the AWA territory as a heel. Did a lot of teaming up with Dick Murdoch, as they did all over the world. Eventually, they turned Dusty babyface, and he left the territory, and the rest is history as far as his NWA run is concerned. He came back in 1984 for that infamous or famous Battle Royal won by Jerry Blackwell when Jerry turned babyface. Dusty was around for a little bit of time then and then disappeared again. As far as the Paul Bosch connection, there wasn't so much a connection with Vern and Bill Watts, although there was a little bit with Vern and Mid-South, but more it was the Houston territory. And Nick and Paul Bosch were extremely close for a little while. Nick actually had a percentage of the Houston wrestling promotion. So there was your real connection. It was more between Bosch and Bockwinkel.
Yeah, I got nothing to add other than, yes, indeed, Dusty had a decent run here in the AWA.
Was Dusty better heel or babyface? I only know him as a babyface.
He was a tremendous heel.
Okay.
To compare, that might be the ultimate dichotomy. Dusty Rhodes is a babyface or a heel. He was kind of as a heel, he was kind of a despicable but lovable heel. Of course, went absolutely apeshit with blading as he did later on in his career as a babyface. But boy, at either one, Dusty was a phenom, no doubt.
I think like a lot of wrestlers who have been in the business for a long time that start out as a heel and then later turn babyface. Baron von Raschke is another one that we've brought up. I thoroughly enjoyed both of them, even though the heel Dusty was when I was very young. I hated him, but then when he turned babyface, I loved him. And you know, was it just seeing him for so many years or sporadically over so many years because we didn't have the internet? But that'd be a good question for us to ask the fans on our Facebook page. Do you prefer old heel, or I should say young heel Dusty Rhodes, or the older babyface? All I know is it's electrified funk.
Wow, man!
Everybody's got a. It's kind of like they say everybody's got an asshole. Well, everybody's got a Dusty impression. Some of them just, stink more than others.
Oh, I am the world's. I'm the world's worst impressionist. I once a week I pretend to know podcasting.
Chris, I got to use that one down the road, buddy. That was good.
No, your Dusty is much better than mine. That's why I don't do it.
You've done your Dusty more than once.
Yeah, I'll do it because I don't give a shit.
All right, let's go on to question 2 at some point.
Move on to the next question, if you will, Daddy.
In public.
By the way, you were right, Chris. Your impersonations. Kidding. Question number 2.
It does. It sucks.
But
because these impressions suck eggs.
But they're fun. They're fun. Just like everybody tries to do Ric Flair.
Yeah. My Dusty impression sucks eggs. See, I can't even do Terry Funk. I can't do anything.
Well, let's move on to our next question, and then we can bury question 1 behind us, impersonations included. This one's for you, Mick, and it's from Norm Stanley. Was Mad Dog Vachon ever married?
Well, of course he was. You know, dogs mate all the time. You know, you should look around in the neighborhood here. But
Doggy style?
yes, Mad Dog was married to Kathy Vachon for many, many years. She would accompany him all over the road. They had a real love affair. You would see him at the reunions and autograph signings and what have you. And Kathy, especially after Mad Dog had his leg amputation, she was with him everywhere. And she passed away not all that long ago. So the two of them are reunited, as Nick Bockwinkel would say, the dog and lady dog. So yes, a terrific picture of Mad Dog and Kathy Vachon.
It's just amazing to me. You look at that picture, Mad Dog with his wife, and the complete opposite of what he was on camera. You know, this mean, rabid dog, biting, clawing, scratching. And that was right there. That's the real Mad Dog, smiling with his wife, funnier than hell in real life as well.
And he's got his teeth in. Look at that.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, rest in peace, Doug.
You betcha.
All right. Oh, wow. Did you just target where we're from?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, sure. You betcha.
Die Hurten, Verten.
Well, I suppose we should probably get on to the next question.
And then go have some hot dish. Yeah, go ahead. Next question.
Oh, for cute.
Oh, well, we should probably start saying goodbye now, because the Minnesota goodbye will take about 45 minutes.
There you go. Yeah.
You know what, though? I got to get a DNA test on my kid because she does the Irish goodbye. Like, she'll be like here, and then I turn around and I'm like, where'd she go? And my wife says she went upstairs. I'm like, that can't be my kid. If that was my kid, she'd still be talking.
The old Irish exit. May have done that once or twice in my day when I might have been too tired from, hoisting.
Never been at the Croatian Hall, though.
What is the Croatian Hall?
Next question, please.
Okay. Question 3. This is for the entire crew from David.
Nailed it.
Huh?
From David?
From David Scroggins. Love, love, love the show. Any chance of getting Mr. Magnificent Kevin Nails Kelly on the show?
Wow. Well, that would be a get, Mr. Tubbs.
Yeah.
There's some people with what you see is what you get. And my good friend Kevin Wacker, looking good there, Chris. My good friend Kevin Wackholtz, Nails, aka Mr. Magnificent Kevin Kelly. This is a legitimate tough guy, and he had the attitude to go along with it. He disappeared from the business very quickly and basically was a hermit for many, many years. Nobody knew how to get a hold of him. And, you actually probably didn't want to get a hold of him because you never knew what kind of a Mr. Magnificent you were going to get. But now recently he has surfaced on the convention scene and the reunion scene. This would be one heck of an interview. I would love to ask him specifically a non-AWA question just about how big Vince McMahon's neck is. If he was able to get his hands around Vince's neck. But tough guy. I always got along with him. A very quiet, soft-spoken. Outside the arena, every once in a while he would erupt in flames. But this was the real deal.
He deserved his spot as a heel everywhere that he went.
Yeah.
He played it very well. It's my understanding, Mick, that when he left the business, he got into the construction industry here in Minnesota and did pretty darn well for himself, from what I understand.
Yeah, he was actually one of the early guests on SNR way back in the day, 1988. I still remember we were doing an AWF TV taping in Chicago, and as one of the spots towards the end of the match, he and his opponent went outside on the floor. The opponent's on his hands and knees, and Kevin went about 30 feet away and picked up a bar stool or a stool and launched it like a spiral, quarterback spiral, and hit the poor guy in the head as he's on the ground on the outside of the ring. So Mr. Magnificent, yeah, he was a character. This is a no nonsense guy.
No.
Yeah,
Love to get him on the show.
Yeah, I think the first person to do a shoot interview with him when he kind of resurfaced was actually my friend Mike Johnson out in New York from PW Insider. He definitely, I don't know why he stepped away. You know, people step away for various reasons, and it is nice to see him back out and about, because I do think that people have an appreciation. Now, obviously, he's going to be known more for, you know, going up to Vince McMahon and getting into that altercation. But I would love to talk to him about his, you know, upbringing here. And, you know, it's just a matter of, you know, seeing if, you know, the terms and everything would work. Because, I mean, right now he's in such high demand that I say you keep writing that and get all of the money that you can while you've got it, because sooner or later that well's going to run dry again.
Yeah, absolutely. But
and for the record, I've never paid for an interview. Anybody that comes on the show, we will promote what they've got. We will talk about what they've got. You know, we will do all of the, you know, bartering and social media and everything. But I've never paid for an interview in my broadcasting life. And I've talked with, you know, Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, you know, Jerry Rice. I've talked with big time sports people and even entertainers. I've never paid for it. And I just have a hard time. To me, I have a hard time doing that because I just grew up in this business differently.
Yeah, and we've talked about it before, especially somebody who's been off the radar for a long time, and we approach them from a nostalgia standpoint and want to get them out there, and it's all of a sudden, you know, they're doing us the favor.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't work that way, and I think we've done pretty well. If you look at the roster of people that we've had on our show, the veterans,
for sure, that
they appreciate the opportunity, the platform, and let's keep it going that way.
And I mean, Kevin would, if we talked to him, it would be a different interview than everybody else would do, because everybody wants to talk about the Vince McMahon thing. That would be like a very minute part of what we would do. But maybe down the road, you know, maybe when Kevin's done, you got to strike while the iron's hot. I don't blame him at all for that. Go ahead, Joe. I'm sorry, I kind of jumped in a couple times.
No, you're fine. I was just going to add. I don't know that it was intentional that he completely stepped away from the business, but by doing so, look what that's done. It's created a demand.
Yeah.
You know, you can go having a Ric Flair autograph in this day and age, or a Kevin Nash, the bigger names. Dare I say it's a dime a dozen as far as the value of it. They've been there, done that type of a thing. Kevin disappeared for 20, 25 years, whatever it was, came back, and now he's, I'm just guessing, but he's a very hot commodity in the wrestling industry. I work with Think Signatures, Nick Christie out of New York, and he told me before Kevin came back on that he would love to be able to get him, but that his price is so high. But Nick was considering paying him to come in and do a live meet and greet because it was such a valued item, because it was so rare to get items by him signed. So, but as we've seen, he's coming back into the wrestling ring, if you will, and good to see it. I'm glad he's getting that opportunity and maybe hopefully embracing what his early career really was.
Yeah, there's the Nash and Flair and those that are doing the convention circuit, it's a much higher profile, but the market's saturated.
Yes.
So absolutely, the supply and demand. It would, I think, kind of be the same thing with Brad Reagan's or a Rick Martel. Like those guys are just away, but if they ever step back, guess what? Boom, because it's like when you're a collector, it's a rare item that you find, and yeah, it would be great, but maybe down the road, that's one of those that we would have to table until Kevin got done doing everything that he wanted to do. Because again, strike while the iron's hot. I don't pay for interviews or appearances, and I don't ask when I go on other shows. I don't ask for money, but that doesn't mean that these guys don't deserve to go out and get every penny that they've earned. That's my opinion. I don't hate their business model. You go out and you do what's best for you. And
we're doing what's best for us. It's not like we're making money hand over fist.
No. This is a passion project for us. It's a fun little aside on the side. So there we go.
Next cue.
Question number 5. Mick, this is for you and I. It's from Tyrone Larson. Sorry, I'm chuckling because I just read the question ahead of time. A Silo Sam, your personal favorite, is Silo Sam your personal favorite, the same guy as Big John Harris from World Class? Was he really as bad as you say in AWA country? I'm
not going to stutter, but yes.
You got the third one. Yes. Yeah.
Not quite. Maybe, there he is. There's old John Elmo Harris, the late Silo Sam. Yeah, you nailed it, Tyrone. He is the same guy. He was not in the AWA for a long time, thankfully. They brought him in for battle royals. There's one interview with Larry Nelson, who was about 6'3" himself. They build Silo Sam at 7'7", I believe. I tell you what, yeah, he was as bad as we say, and we've compared him to Rocky Mountain Thunder. Silo Sam had some ring experience behind him. He was just a big guy. He was kind of a big, clumsy guy, but there was a little tiny bit of charisma, only because he was one of those big old Southern country boys that didn't quite get over as the rest of them did, whereas Rocky Mountain Thunder was nothing. There was no talent there, and he hurt people. But Silo Sam, yeah, I know this. George Shire has a Larry Hennig plaque on his wall. I know, Joe, you have a Silo Sam 8x10, and I mean 8 feet by 10 feet, and actual size. So there you go.
For the record, no, I don't. And my simplest reply or answer to was he really that bad? When you're only used in a battle royal, that gives you sort of one hint. Your help being hidden by 19 other wrestlers. Even though you're billed at 7'7", the lack of in-ring abilities were hidden in a battle royal because you don't have to really do a wrestling hold. You just sort of raise your hand and...
Well, unless you're JT Southern.
Well,
then you go through a whole series of amateur wrestling moves, and get fired on the spot by the boss.
There are always exceptions to the rule. And as I always say, there's nothing in this life that is 100% other than, we all die at some point. But, Silo Sam was nothing more than a sideshow attraction. Yeah. I'll use the analogy of you're walking down the Midway and you come across this beautiful display and you've got a Carnival Barker shouting out, and the sell job, everything is great and perfect, and you're expecting to see this massive, large human being. And then you walk in and you see a guy whose beer belly has a beer belly, who looks like he's never lifted a weight in his life.
Hey,
No, you're not 7'7", no, Mick.
Oh.
But, the rest of it, I'm describing your mirror reflection. But no, Silo Sam was not a good wrestler. He was nothing more than a desperate sideshow attraction. Period.
yeah, and we've talked about Silo Sam longer than his career lasted. So let's go to the next question.
Yep, I actually got to backtrack one because I skipped over one, and this is for the crew from Andy Leach. I know Bob Backlund appeared in the AWA as a babyface on a couple of different runs. Was he better as a face or as Mr. Backlund persona?
I was around watching Bob Backlund when he broke into the business. And by the way, Eddie Sharkey had a hand in training Bob Backlund. Personally, I love the Mr. Backlund character. I thought it kind of rejuvenated Bob Backlund because what's interesting, Bob was such a milquetoast baby face, and even when he was champion in WWF, he couldn't cut a promo. I mean, God bless him. And we mentioned Brad Ringens a lot. Yeah, it was Brad Ringens on 33 and a third speed. But he got over huge in Madison Square Garden as champion. He was a beloved WWF champion. Well, then the business changed. And all of a sudden, you had Hulk Hogan coming in, and Bob Backlund was, it just couldn't cut the mustard. Great technical wrestler, yes, but the transformation to that Mr. Backlund character, I just loved it. He would literally, if a kid asked him for an autograph, the kid had to give every 50 states at the time, the state capitals, or Bob Backlund would not sign the autograph. So he lived the gimmick, and Bob, I think, is Bob is a character, to say the least.
What amazes me is, actually, if I stop and think about it, it shouldn't amaze me. When he was that babyface, as you said, he couldn't cut a promo, but then he turned into the Mr. Backlund. And I wouldn't say that his promos were great, but his gimmick was really good.
Yeah.
And so that made the promo segments of him fantastic. He has carried on that Mr. Backlund gimmick right up through Vern's funeral, as we have talked about. If that character may have been there, just revealed when he was a WWF champion, might have been a little bit different. Wasn't going to dismiss the fact that he needed to lose the belt to Iron Sheik and then Iron Sheik to Hogan. That was going to happen no matter who it was. But it's a testament, sort of, and I brought this up on the show before. It's easy to be a heel. It's easy to get somebody to dislike you. It's much more difficult to get somebody to like you as the babyface,
as we well know here at the podcast.
Well, and Bob Backlund as a babyface, like you said, he was milquetoast. I don't really remember his babyface run, but the Mr. Backlund thing, I knew that he'd always been a good guy. And when he did the thing with Brett in '94 in WWF, it was just 180 degree different from, like, he was just so quiet. And even when I went to North Dakota State, because he's a North Dakota State guy, we used to have the Bison Sports Arena, and up on the upper level was the basketball court. On the bottom, the wrestling room was upstairs, and it had Bob Backlund's name on there. And he just always was very, people were he's just very quiet, very reserved, just, very kind of did his own thing. But yeah, just being able to be a heel, to me, it's one thing to do that, but then to lived this character from 1994 on. It's like 31, 32 years of this character. Just like that's who he is. I mean, even when my buddy AJ Francis went out there for that Hidden Treasures show that they used to do at A&E, he went and saw Bob Backlund. So it was, yeah, I enjoy Bob Backlund, the heel.
Yep, I'm with you 100%.
Let's move on to our next question, and this one is for you, Chris. It's from Stan Bialik. I remember on a podcast way back when you were drooling over Missy Hyatt. She's out there making appearances. Why not get her on the show?
Hey, Mick knows my thoughts on Missy Hyatt. I was a Missy Hyatt fan. Oh my God. Yes. I was a Missy Hyatt fan, and I still am a Missy Hyatt fan. I don't give a shit what people say, what people think, what people do, what she's done. Her life is her life. And you cannot tell me that 10-year-old Chris, 11-year-old Chris, 12-year-old Chris, 50-year-old Chris, all of those Chris's in between, you cannot tell me that Missy Hyatt was not the cat's meow. I would love to get her on. I have an immense amount of respect for Missy Hyatt because not only was she great eye candy, I thought she added a lot to, whenever she was out at ringside and then she did the announcing. I think Missy Hyatt's incredibly talented. People can say what they want. I don't care. I'm not one of those. I would love to talk to Missy Hyatt.
I've asked Missy a couple of times to be on the show, and she kind of hesitated. She said, I really don't like doing those shows. She says I come off like an idiot, blah, blah, blah. Well, first of all, in her character, she came off as the stereotypical ditzy blonde with an attitude.
Yeah, she did it very well.
She was great.
People forget Missy Hyatt was so good at what she did. Yeah. She's incredibly talented.
She absolutely is, and I had just a short stint working with her in the AWF. She's such a great person, and she's still beautiful to this day. She still has the Facebook presence. And I agree with you, Chris. Everything that Missy did, and she would get in the ring, mix it up in the cat fights and put feuds over and everything, that's a Hall of Famer. As far as I'm concerned, that's a Hall of Fame career, as opposed to just being married to some guy and you get into the Hall of Fame. I would love to get Missy on.
That's not very McCool.
Wow. Yeah, you're absolutely right. But love Missy. She's a terrific person, and I'll see what I can do. We'll try working on that one.
I remember, so I started in the AWA in 85, October 7th. In fact, it's coming up on 40 years. Holy shit. Okay, as I pause and ponder that wild thing. But what I remember is thinking that the Missy Hyatt character had a lot of parallels for me with Christina Applegate's Kelly Bundy.
Yes, Married with Children. Absolutely.
And then later on, when I learned that the writers and the producers of Married with Children were huge professional wrestling fans. So it's like, was there that tie-in? I don't know. I'm not going to go into some conspiracy, whatever, but I wouldn't be surprised. But I just remember that when I'd see Missy Hyatt and then I'd watch Married with Children, Kelly Bundy is doing Missy Hyatt on the Bundys.
Yeah. And let me say this about, I'm going to put our audience over for a bit, the Unleashed Army. We have a very good group of people that watch, that comment, that are part of our community. We don't have a big community here. We're a very niche product. We knew that, we know that, and we're fine with that. We also have people that are very positive. We've had a few that have tried to come in and start some shit and troll, and I've shut that down real quick because we're not going to be that. We're not going to be that. Well, I'm going to come on here and I'm going to criticize, and we're going to get into all these arguments. I think one thing that I would say, if you could talk to Missy, you know that she would go over so well here. Our fans love and respect her. There's nobody, and if you do, your shit's blocked, your shit's deleted, and you're gone. And people know that. And I feel like those that have tried it have kind of stepped back because they know that I'm not playing when it comes to that stuff.
Great point, Chris. And as we're talking about Missy here, I'm thinking back to the not only the world-class days, but the Mid-South days when it was Missy and Dark Journey and Baby Doll and Sunshine. And I mean, that was really must-watch TV back in the day. And Missy, here we are 40 plus years later, and she's the first lady of wrestling as far as I'm concerned. She absolutely is.
Yes.
Sherry came into the AWA just a couple of years, or maybe a year after Missy was taken off down south. Sherry was an amplification, but the difference between Sherry and Missy was that Missy had this kind of attitude about her, where Sherry Martel was tough and she'd punch you right in the mouth. Missy would hit you with her purse and then cry about hitting you, or that you were bleeding on her carpet after she hit you. But like I say, we'll try to get the old Missy on the show one of these days. I would love.
Well, you called her old, so now it's not going to happen.
Oh,
next question.
Talk about hit and run. He throws that out there and then leaves the screen.
Sure. Then he's gone. Domino's Pizza. Boom. All right. What's next?
Next question. This one is for you, Mick, and it's from Jack Gale. I remember University of Minnesota wrestling great Evan Johnson turned pro under Vern Gagne. Is he still around? Haven't heard his name in years, and I think he would be a good guest.
Wow. Evan Johnson, trained by Vern. Evan was one of those guys. He teamed up with Steve Olszanowski in the AWA 1970s. Tremendous amateur wrestler. I don't remember if he was an Olympic potential or not. I don't recall that. I should. There's Evan wrestling at the University of Minnesota. It was another case of it was kind of a square peg in a round hole. Evan had all the amateur wrestling background in the world. And coming from Minnesota with that kind of a background, Vern loved him. But personality-wise, Evan was a real soft-spoken guy. I mean, real soft-spoken. And because of that, even with the Minnesota connection, it didn't translate well into the world of pro wrestling. He was not in the business for very long. I know he's still around. I don't know if he's here in the Twin Cities. The last time I saw Evan was probably, 7, 8, 10 years ago. He was actually an attendee at a University of Minnesota college wrestling meet. So I don't know. I would be interested in talking to Evan about those early days in the business and find out why he actually got out. I would put him in the category of a Lorenz Susi, somebody like that has the amateur background, but just didn't cut it as a professional. It is not for everybody.
Nope. And you said it right. He's a square peg in a round hole, a needed component of that whole little kids game where you had the different shapes and you had to fit it in there. But in his case, similar to, I guess, like even a Brad Reagan's, even though Brad's career was certainly much longer in professional wrestling, but some similarities. Fantastic workers inside the ring, but that's just one of the ingredients that you need to be a good professional wrestler overall.
Bingo.
So, okay, question 8. Moving on. This one is for me, and it's from Sue Klein. My family and I have been fans of Baron von Raschke going back to his bad days in the AWA. You mentioned that he's having some physical issues that might prevent him from being on the podcast. Can you elaborate? Out of respect to Baron and to the Claw and Mrs. Claw's wife, Bonnie. I won't get into details, but I'll just say this. Barron was done in Waterloo for the Hall of Fame this past year and got an award and honored. Barron is, I believe, gosh, what is it, 85 now?
I think so, yeah.
You know, he still knows me, recognizes me. It's always great to see him when I do, but the hearing isn't there. The mobility isn't there. Not that you need mobility to do a podcast, but it's just not something that I think Barron is overly comfortable with doing, certainly from the technology standpoint, even though I'm sure his daughter Heidi would be able to help him. But it's if we were able to get Barron, it would be a really big thing. I just sadly don't think it's going to happen. And in terms of elaborating on his health, he's 85 years old.
Right.
You know, time catches up to all of us at some point, some sooner than later. And in Barron's case, I was just happy to be able to see him. It was sad to see him even try to walk. He doesn't have his balance. He, you know, has one of those little walkers.
Yeah.
Even though he tried to walk up the stairs at Waterloo without it and not fell over, but did need to catch himself on the steps type of a thing. Sad to see your childhood, I'll say heroes, age. But he's still Barron.
He sure is.
Still gave the claw at the end of his speech, and you know, fantastic to see him. Just wish nothing but the best for he and Bonnie as they do what they can to battle and keep at bay Father Time.
Yeah, everybody gets older, but Barron is still out there. That's the thing. You know, he's 85. He's slowing down, but you know, he's like an old car that has been kind of refurbished many, many times, but it's still out on the road. And God love you, Barron. It would be great to have him on the program. And he is a much requested guest on the show from the people that we hear from. And another thing, Barron is one of the handful, and that's hyperbole to say handful. Guys that broke in the 60s in the AWA that are still with us, you can count on one hand now. It's really something, and it's really sad. But you're right, he's still the Barron. So
yep,
let's go.
Okay, our next question is from Donna Sell, and it's for all of us. Great show, great job on the show, guys. A while back, you mentioned maybe getting Rachel Ellering on the show. Is that still in the works?
Well, I think we can. Chris, you want to join us on this one? Rachel Ellering, I did commentary with her at a Midwest All-Star Wrestling show. I think it's a couple of years ago now, and she very bubbly personality, great lady to talk to and work with. And you know, I asked her, I said, would you enjoy being on the podcast? You know, the connection to her dad, of course. And she was all over it. You know, she said, I'll give you my telephone number, so on and so forth. Well, then, you know, we approached Paul as well, and then he has the Legends deal with the WWF. So
no, he's still got the Legends deal, right?
Okay, yeah, I believe he is.
As
so
far as I know, okay.
You know, we're going to have a tough time. I would love to get Rachel on the show, not only to hear about her upbringing with her dad, the notorious Precious Paul, but also her wrestling career. She's a star, and I think she would be a great interview. I'll see if I still have the telephone number. If not, I'll find it. Let's get her on the show.
Yeah, you can. Send me her phone number, because I remember that you were talking. You know, you were talking with her, and you had like communicated with her for a little bit, but then I think she did a brief little run in TNA, and then I think that's kind of what I think we were working towards it. I had the doc. We kind of had the studio and everything set up, and then she had her thing with TNA. Again, she is just someone that I think her stories would be very fascinating. I'd love to get her on, and I'm a big fan of her boyfriend too, Chris Hero. But I mean, that would be a Patreon. But I mean, I think Rachel Ellering would be great. So yeah, just find her information again and shoot it my way.
We'll do it.
Okay. Moving on, our next question. This one is for you, Mick. It's from Lee Plitkoff. I know Vern had a go-around with Ric Flair about giving Vern a percentage of his earnings over the years. Were there any other trainees that had similar experiences with VG?
Yeah, and before we put this picture up, Chris, first of all, I will mention Paul Pershman, Playboy Buddy Rose. I've mentioned that before. About 6-7 years in the business, I get a call from Buddy, and he's working down in Texas. And he had been contacted by Vern, Vern asking for his 10% tuition fee or training fee or whatever it was, booking fee. And Paul, Buddy, went to Ray Stevens, and this is before Ray was working with Vern in the office here. And Ray said, absolutely not. You know, he's not booking you anymore. Your career took off on its own. Screw him. The Flair deal, after Twin Wars, when Vern was going to pay Flair and then said, don't forget about the 10% training fee you owe me. I mean, this is Ric Flair you're talking to, and probably not a good idea. And Flair left the building. One guy that I want to talk about, and they did not have a disagreement about money, but I just want to show you the kind of money that Vern would have made had he had this ongoing agreement with everybody and it was a continuing basis. Chris, if we could put the photograph, do you have the photograph of the check? You can't see what that is, or maybe you can, folks. That is Ricky Steamboat's check for WrestleMania, working against Randy Savage, 50,000 smackers for the night. And that ain't half bad. So can you imagine all those years later, Dick Blood, Ricky Steamboat, calls Vern up and he says, well, I'll send you $5,000 in the mail, boss. Thanks for training me 40 years ago. No, didn't fly. The only two that I really heard of, though, as far as, making waves, were Flair and Buddy Rose.
Mick, back now, I think I know the answer to this, but back in the day, there was no contract that these trainees would have signed to go to Vern's camp.
It's interesting. And it may be the world of kayfabe, because I remember when Chris Taylor got into the business, they were writing it up in the Star Tribune as he signed a deal with Vern Gagne. Now, whether or not that was an actual pen to paper kind of a thing or just a verbal agreement, I don't know. I honestly don't know, Joe, if in those days when you train somebody, if you had the contract as opposed to when they go on the road and it's just kind of a gentleman's agreement with promoters and what have you, and they were kind of free agents. So I don't know the technicalities of the trainees back then, but I know that it flew in the face of a couple of the guys and did not pan out very well.
Well, knowing what I know of Vern and the AWA and how it was run, now granted it was 85 when I started, there wouldn't have been a contract. It would have been kept on the down low. In fact, I remember one time Vern telling me when he got to be 65, he goes, well, if I'd have known, if I'd have thought that I was going to get this money at 65 when I retired from Social Security, I actually would have paid in. So, hey, think about it. The wrestling business back in those days, it wasn't credit card transactions. It was all cash. at the door, and it's difficult to keep track of cash if you really don't put forth that effort.
Well, Adnan made $100,000, and he declared $700 on his income tax, that or whatever. So, it happens. I'm sure that was just an honest mistake because he's from Iraq. Probably didn't understand it.
Well,
Monetary.
he thought it was, with the money conversion, he thought it was Mazzati
Yes.
instead of US dollars.
No reason to ever doubt Adnan.
No. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This one is from Elliot Tannick. I love the show about the enhancement guys from the 60s. Any chance moving forward that you could highlight the job guys from the 70s and 80s? And I know we talked about this one right away.
Absolutely. And we have to go to the enhancement guys in the 70s and the 80s. And I mentioned the difference between then and now is there were real enhancement guys back then. There aren't that many these days. What you're looking at right there is courtesy of our friend, the Texas Hangman himself, Mike Moran on the left, and that is our old buddy Herman Schaefer. Herman, he's still with us. Herman was always an interesting guy to see in the ring. He was one big dude, always played the heel role, always gave one of the baby faces a licking until it was time to stop ticking. And I would love to talk to Herman, love to spotlight all the guys. And we've had some of them on the air. The late Nacho Barrera, of course, Tom Rocky Stone, Chris Curtis. We've had guys from that era representing the enhancement talent. But yes, absolutely. Let's do it down the road, 70s and 80s individually. We won't mix and match of the carpenters of the business.
Yeah, when we do the 80s, it'd be... Well, I mean, they were still enhancement talent in Vegas.
Yeah, so, there was.
Yep. Yeah, going well into the 80s. So yeah, we could separate those if we needed to.
Next.
Well, our next and last question for today. This one is again for you, Mick, and it's from Don Hargrave. Transplanted Twin Cities guy to Tampa. I love to hear your stories about the trouble you caused in the studio when you were in the 60s and 70s.
Never.
Bullshit. Have you got another encounter with a wrestler that you can share? By the way, Chris, congrats on the Chuck Foreman gig. He was my favorite wrestler.
Huh? Favorite wrestler? He was a football player, but that's besides the point.
Oh, he's my favorite Viking. Sorry, that's just me.
There we
go.
Like,
wait a minute, that's a new part. Yeah, I can talk about the Chuck Foreman thing a little later. Tell people about that.
That's not Chuck Foreman that we're looking at.
It's not Chuck Foreman, no.
Yeah, I had a tendency to get a little heat from the boys in management back in the day when I was attending the studio matches. Big heel fan. So I made my buddies and I made a little bit too much noise once in a while they were trying to get the baby face over. My buddy Greg Gagne, actually, it wasn't me. Greg was in a tag team match on television, and Greg's corner happened to be right above front row ringside where we were sitting. And my friend Neil got on Greg. Neil had a tendency to kind of, spout off in the studio. And he was yelling to Greg something about skeleton and bones and what have you. And Greg looked down at me sitting at ringside and said, why don't you, such a big shot, why don't you get in here? And I said, Greg, I wouldn't get into the ring with Sky Lolo, first of all, let alone Greg Gagne. I said, Greg, I have nothing to do with this. And, but the sweat beads were forming, but, coincidentally, I guess everything, played out as it should, because 13 years later, I got that call from Greg to work for the AWA. But yeah, Greg did not take kindly to his physique being put in the spotlight, let's say.
I you're describing this latest situation with you sitting in the TV studio audience, what popped into my mind is that you were like an internet troll before internet trolls became a thing. You just did it live in the TV studio. I mean, here you are, the head of the Backlund Brigade. You're cheering on a bad guy at a time when it was very rare for that to happen. So you're a troll. You were the first troll in the business, Mr. Coach.
You can find me under the bridge. This was not the first time.
Answer me these questions 3.
Wow. I had mentioned the Marty Miller incident when Marty was filling in for Dr. X with the mask in the studio, and my buddy and I can't blame him this time. I turned around and said, "Hey, it's Marty Miller." Marty was not happy. Vern was not happy. A lot of people weren't happy. To your point, Joe, about cheering for Nick and the Bockwinkel Brigade, first of all, Roger Kent would actually mention the Bockwinkel Brigade on the broadcast because we were that loud and he couldn't ignore us. The other thing is I cheered all the heels. It wasn't just Nick. It was Ray. It was Superstar. It was Ivan Koloff, Stan Kowalski, Larry Hennig before he turned babyface. Yeah, I was a big heel fan going way back, and the folks in the studio and the control room, especially that guy would pound his forehead every once in a while. They were not real thrilled with me. Probably why it took me 20 years to get hired.
You're gonna say so you were cheering the heels as a kid, like when you finally get a job and you're in the AWA and you're these are your peers. Do you have any conversations? Did they ever ask you, you're like, hey, did you ever have a conversation with them about your actions when you were a kid, now that you're in the fold?
Only one. And of all people, it was Jim Brunzell. And Jumpin' Jimmy was very diplomatic. We were at some kind of a fan gathering, and somebody asked Jim, "Hey, Mick was really loud in the studio back then when you and Greg were doing the high flyer thing. Did you ever get irritated with you?" And Jim, I'm standing right there. God knows what he would have said if I wasn't there. But he said, "Well, let's just say that Mick was kind of an over-enthusiastic fan. But we always appreciate, when the fans are so excited and get involved in the show." And that's kind of where it ended. What he wanted to say was he was a smart ass, sarcastic son of a bitch, and we wanted to slap him up. But he didn't. So thank you, Jim Brunzell.
Did you have to apologize to them? Like, hey, I was a kid, I was doing my job. Like, did they ever need you to apologize to smooth things over? Or was it like, okay, you were a kid, you were being a smart ass, and now you're an adult and you're being a smart ass?
I never apologized for that. I got what you said there. I never apologized for that. What would happen is that I would hear through the grapevine the next week when I showed up at the TV studio, "Hey, Vern wasn't too happy," or "Roger Kent, you got to tone it down a little bit." Even Nick, although this wasn't because we were cheering in the studio, in one of the Bockwinkel Brigade bulletins, and this was 1972, I took a shot at the Crusher, and it was an extended shot at the Crusher. And Nick actually approached me and, said, yeah, okay, but, you might want to tone it down a little bit in Nick's diplomatic way. But, hey, you know what? I was a heel fan before it was, the thing to be, and I'm damn proud of it.
And look at all these years later, and you're still a heel.
It's guilt by association there, Bruce.
Yeah, I wasn't sure where we were going with it. Yeah, like you both healed. You both healed. I can't be the baby face on this, okay?
I go back and forth. It depends. If it's Barry Darso, I'm a heel. Otherwise, I'm a semi-heel.
You're a tweener.
I'm a tweener. I'm a Polish tweener.
You're a tweener. All right. Yeah. Hey, Good stuff, guys.
Yeah, you could have just left out the ta and just said you're a wiener.
Wow.
Well, we got to do the shout outs before we do that. See, I've already wasted.
I'm not
my
a wiener.
moment.
I'm a kielbasa.
Yeah, in your mind.
Yeah, you are kielbasa in the territory. That's for sure.
Mini
Yeah.
kielbasa.
Yeah, cocktail wiener. All right, so we're gonna do shout outs.
Yeah,
I guess. I think that's part of the gig.
I think it is now that we stepped on the closing lines. My shout out goes to our good friend Jen Fritz. Jen she is a gem of an individual. She's been going through some health stuff recently. My number one gimmick sales girl at the matches, a friend for 35 years, and Jen, we love you. So hats off to you, kiddo.
my shout out goes, or I should say, my blind dart throw of the week shout out goes to Mike Wilson, who posed the question on our Facebook page. What song do you think Crusher would have used to come out to if music would have been a thing back in the day? And he put Tom T. Hall's I Like Beer, which made not a bad thing, but come on, Mike. Let's face it, there's really only one song that Crusher would have used, and that would have been the Beer Barrel Polka. Period. Done.
Roll out the barrel.
He brought it up, in interviews, a couple of times. He would, not that it was his ending catchphrase, but he would say, roll out them barrels.
I don't know. I would have figured Crusher for maybe a Strangers in the Night or You've Lost That Lovin' Feeling kind of a
It would
guy.
have been a Johnny Cash song, because as he said in his interview with Roger Kent, every time Crusher sings, that people are going to mistake him for Johnny Cash.
Speaking of Johnny Cash, I Walk the Line was Kenny J's ring entrance theme song. God bless Kenny.
There you
Chris,
go.
on to you.
Beer Barrel Polka, without question, would have been Crusher's entrance song.
No doubt.
And my shout out of the week is going to go to Pat Crocker, one of our very first pinfall members. He's been with us since just a little less than 2 years here as one of our pinfall members. So thank you, Pat, and appreciate your longtime support. We appreciate everybody out there. If you want to become a pinfall member, we've got our Back to Ringside that Mick and I do. It's a weekly, just kind of a synopsis of what's going on in the current product. We've got our Watch Along, which we just released last week. That was for about Vern. That was for September. So just got that done. We've got more interviews that are coming down the road for exclusively for pinfall members. Once we've got James Beard, we've got Ken Anderson, we've got Jesse Kriza, Herb Simmons, Mark Raimondi, who wrote a book on the NWO. So those are all in the can, ready to go. I know we've going to get Brian Heffron, Blue Meanie.
Yep.
I know that he's a friend of yours, and I'd love to talk to him. So we do have some things going on in our Patreon for $4.99 a month, you guys. And the watch-alongs are probably what people enjoy the most. And you get this a day early, so it's some fun stuff. Mick and I send you a little something too when you kind of kick it off. So I think for $4.99, there's not a better value in wrestling podcasting.
One other name to bring up next week, we have scheduled Downtown Bruno. Yeah, he was a Mid-South guy predominantly, but hey, he did work Wrestle Rock, Super Clash 3, that disaster in Chicago. So we'll get his insight on that. And
disaster in Chicago. That should have been like the tagline, Super Clash 3.
Yeah.
Disaster in Chicago.
Calamity in the,
Bruno's got some good stories. Had the pleasure of interviewing him in New York about a month ago. I got to be friends with him there. So he is anxious to do our podcast with us. And so I just warned him. I said, well, you might think differently when you're done, but thank you for volunteering and accepting our request.
And
for those that maybe don't know Bruno, it's also he was known as Harvey Whippleman in the WWF. Just so people
And he did the cross gimmick thing, Hervina, when he actually won the the WWF women's title as Hervina. Very, very short run, but just another one of the many things. And he's still under a Legends contract and works the road sometimes with the WWE. So
Was it? Did he have the tuxedo match with Howard Finkel? I know that somebody had a
I
tuxedo
think
match
he
with
did.
Howard.
I want to say he did.
Okay. Well, while we'll look that up while Chris is looking up old Missy Hyatt photos, and we'll see what we can.
yeah,
do.
and Chris, just type in Missy Hyatt, not Missy Hyatt naked.
Oh boy.
Looks like it was cold in the studio.